Some men scream when they die, others as silent as the wind. But the worst sort of death? The sort nobody even sees. The sort that gets lost in the dust. Unheard, unseen, forgotten. That's the sort Eleanor found that day. Out beyond Dead Mule Creek, where the road dips low and the sun beats brightest, she found him. A young man, half-naked in the mud. His face ripped, chest laboring for air like every breath wasn't his own. His shirt torn, back bruised, arms sore from the sun, legs gashed like he'd sprint barefoot through the depths of hell. No hat, no horse, no gun. Nothing but stillness so dense it caused the flies to cease their buzzing. Eleanor pulled on her mule's reins, squinting into the sun. She'd encountered drunks. She'd encountered bullet wounds. But this wasn't either of those. This was submission. She stepped down, brushed the dust from her skirt. Her boots sank into the hard, hot soil. The man didn't move. She knelt close, studying him. He was young, but life had chewed him up. Jaw caked with dust. Knuckles split open like he'd fought too long after there was nothing left worth fighting for. Then his lips moved, barely audible. "Don't help me. I'm not worth saving." And then he passed out cold. Eleanor did not blink, did not look away. Instead, she replayed 10 years in an instant. Same road, different man. Her husband, bleeding to death with no one to halt it. She recalled the quiet, the powerlessness, the circling vultures. Not this time. She hooked his arms around her shoulders, groaning under the weight. He was heavy, muscular like someone not designed to shatter, but he had, and she was the sole one remaining to pick him up again. By the time her wagon creaked toward her cabin, the sky blazed orange. The mule plodded slow, but Eleanor never glanced back. She had no idea yet. But the man she'd rescued was going to alter everything. Her farm, her life, her heart, possibly even her past. When Caleb awoke, he wasn't on the ground anymore. He was somewhere warm, too warm. The scent of smoke, soap, and pine wood filled his nostrils. He blinked at the low light, rough planked boards over him, the creak of wood, the sound of metal on a pan. It pulsed in every direction. His chest was bound tightly, his arm as well, cotton draped across his legs. He moved and grunted. A voice from the kitchen spoke. A calm, level voice, like a person who'd worked alone for many years. "You're awake. Try not to move around much. You cracked a few ribs." Caleb attempted to respond. Only a wheeze was heard. There was a bowl of water on the nightstand. Next to it, a pair of small, calloused hands. Hands accustomed to tools and lengthy days in sun. Eleanor did not ask questions. She wiped his brow, held a spoonful of broth to his lips, and waited. He didn't ask where he was, didn't ask who she was. He just gazed away, embarrassed, perhaps angry, perhaps ashamed, difficult to discern. At last he growled, "Why'd you bring me here?" Eleanor didn't even glance up. Wasn't going to let the vultures get what they wanted. The fire crackled. Caleb shifted his gaze to the mantel. A photograph in a frame. A man in uniform, jaw firm, eyes unyielding. Dead, he surmised. Husband. This was not a rescue Caleb had requested. Not one he had earned. But Eleanor set down the bowl, dried her hands, and spoke flat. "Rest up. There's work to do. And I don't feed men who just lie around." And she went outside.
No speeches. No tenderness.
Just one stranger rescuing another and going back to her work like it was nothing. Caleb didn't know what to do with her. But beneath the bruises, the grime, and the remorse, something stirred. Not hope, not yet, but perhaps the echo of it. And if he'd glanced out the window a little further, he might have seen 2 horses on the ridge. 2 riders, watching, waiting. Morning arrived too silently, too quietly. Eleanor outside and back, chopping wood, saw the mule prancing its head, ears pricked toward the ridge. Caleb, sleeping half awake inside, heard it as well, the beat of hoofbeats, slowing, heaving, drawing near. 2 men rode into the yard as if they owned the place. One wide, boisterous, chewing tobacco did groundwork and spitting like he was staking claims to the territory as his own. The other held back, eyes mean, silence menacing. And that is when the trouble really started. Some of them die in terror. Others quietly fade away, like the breeze. But the most evil death of all is the one no one sees. That's the kind of death Eleanor witnessed that day. Out on the scorching road beyond Mule Creek, where the haze of dust was thick and the heat weighed upon her like a physical force, she discovered him. A boy, barely 20, buried up to his waist in the ground. Shirt in tatters, back battered, arms blistered from the sun, legs lacerated, as if he'd ridden hell itself on nothing but sheer willpower. No hat, no gun, no horse, nothing. Silence so thick, even the flies ceased buzzing. She reined in her mule, raised an eyebrow and approached. He wasn't dying, not yet. His chest expanded shallow, like each breath exacted more from him than he could give. Eleanor had witnessed drunks fall in the street. She'd witnessed bullet holes and shattered men. But this was not drunkenness. This was submission. She knelt, dust lifting around her boots, and leaned close. His jaw was caked in dirt, his knuckles split raw, like he'd been fighting for something long after it stopped fighting for him. Then his lips moved, barely a whisper. "Don't help me. I'm not worth saving." And with that, his body went limp. Eleanor stood stiff as a statue. Her mind retreated to another road, another man, her husband, dying as buzzards flew overhead. She recalled the powerlessness, the quietness, the silence, and she vowed not again. She pulled his weight through the gray dust, lifted him onto her wagon, and headed her mule toward the cabin. The orange sun blazed behind her, but she didn't glance back once. She had no idea yet that the man she'd rescued, Caleb, was going to see her life, her land, maybe even her heart, change everything. When Caleb woke, he wasn't in the dirt anymore. He was inside a small cabin, warm, wrapped in bandages, breathing air that smelled of smoke, soap, and pinewood. His ribs ached, his chest burned. His body had been beaten nearly past repair. From the kitchen came a voice, calm, flat, steady. "You're awake. Don't move much. You've got a rib or two cracked." He tried to speak. Only a wheeze escaped. Eleanor stood beside him holding a bowl of broth. Small hands but calloused, working hands, not gentleness. She placed the spoon against his lips. He did not ask where he was, did not ask who she was. He only glared, shame and rage dancing behind his eyes. At last he whispered, "Why'd you bring me here?" Her reply was straightforward. "I wasn't about to let the vultures win." But the vultures were already circling. 2 days later, hoofbeats thundered into her yard. 2 men, one loud and cocky, spitting tobacco like he owned the dirt beneath him. The other silent, sharp-eyed, studying every corner of her land. "Morning, ma'am," the loud one drawled. "We're looking for a man. Strong build. Rough around the edges. Might have been hurt. Seen anyone like that?" Eleanor leaned on her axe and gave a half-smile. "The only men I see round here," she said, "are in my dreams. And trust me, they don't look anything like you." The loud one laughed. His partner didn't. His eyes wandered to the barn, the chimney smoke, the cabin door. Eleanor talked on, chattered about chickens, coyotes, and dry wells, spending time with nothing but her voice. Under the floorboards, Caleb hid in the root cellar, each muscle taut as boots shuffled inches above. At last, the men turned their horses, and as they rode away, the quiet one gave a long, hard glance back. And Eleanor, she didn't breathe again until they were out of sight. But trouble never departs the frontier quietly. 2 nights later, they returned. No queries this time, no smiles, just the bang of a barn door and the sound of boots on her boards. "Sure you live way out here by yourself, darlin'?" The boisterous one sneered, running his hand along her table, sending a cup crashing over. Eleanor's heart thudded, but she remained firm. The other one moved in too close, his hand grasping her arm. That was the breaking point. The door slammed open. Caleb emerged out of the darkness like a tempest, his fist snapping against the jaw of the first man before the second could even pull out steel. He seized an axe handle and swung it, sending the second crashing down hard and quick. When the dust had settled, the cabin was quiet once more. The two bodies oozed into her floorboards. Eleanor didn't scream, didn't blink. She just gazed at Caleb unwavering, as if she had known this was coming. They buried the bodies deep in the creek bed that night, under moonlight. Broke rifles, burned coats, wiped out every sign. Caleb understood what it did. It left no trail, no word, nothing to take them back to the gang. When he got back, mud on his hands, Eleanor was there. And for the first time, he didn't catch her looking at him with pity. He caught her looking at him with something else. Respect. Perhaps even trust. The following days were slower, calmer. Caleb labored with his hands, repairing fences, fixing barns, carrying water. Eleanor cooked, cared for her garden, and watched him move with a humble strength that gradually filled her vacant home. At first, they spoke little, but silence tends to melt when shared by two broken hearts. And gradually, Caleb spoke to her in fragments. The men pursuing him, the decisions that almost killed him, the burden of being abandoned for dead. Eleanor listened, not with sympathy, but with empathy. She spoke of her husband, of her vow never to let another soul die alone. One night, as the sun blazed red across the mountains, she gave him a fresh shirt. It had been her husband's. Caleb held it for a long time, then folded it and placed it aside. "I don't want someone else's life," he whispered. "I want to create my own." His eyes met hers. "With you." And that's when the story wasn't about surviving anymore. It became about second chances, about how kindness can find footing in the hardest earth, about how occasionally love arrives when you least expect to believe it. So let me ask you, how many of us quit too early? How many of us think we're not worth rescuing? If you've ever been there, let this be a reminder to you. It's never too late to be discovered, never too late to be loved, never too late to start over. If you were moved by this story, like it. And if you'd like more stories of the Wild West, of heartbreak, redemption, and the sort of love born in flames, subscribe, because out here, any story might be the one that shifts the course of it all.